Welcome to the Life After Plus One podcast, where we turn life's lemons into delightful lemonade. Get ready for inspiring stories, uplifting conversations, and all the tips and tricks to rock your single parent journey with style. I'm your host, Leanne, and it's time to embrace the adventure of Life After Plus One. So, let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to Life After Plus One. I'm Leanne, your podcast host and your single parent mentor and coach. And today I want to talk about the biggest issue that comes with single parenting, and that is healing and moving on. Letting go. How do you do that? What does it look like? Because the thing is, people these days are swamped with images and quotes and captions and reels of what you see on social media. And some of it, a large portion of it, is very accurate because you're seeing it from people that are in the industry and are educated in this field and know what they're talking about. But then on the flip side, you've got all these people that are not. They're just talking about their own personal experience, putting all these buzzwords and all these things with it. And then people thinking, oh yeah, that's what I need to do. That's what I need to do. And as a result, everyone, well, not everyone, a large portion of people, when they're going through their breakup, they're seeing all these things on TikTok and social media and everywhere else and thinking that's what I need to be doing. But if it's not someone who is experienced in this field, if it's not someone that works in this industry, then I'll tell you, it's not what you should be doing. Do not take advice of someone just because you're seeing it on social media. So as a result, what is commonly put out there as how you heal and what you need to do to heal is focus on what your ex has done. Let's put a title on your ex. They're avoidant, they're narcissist, they're toxic. And it's become the norm to look at the behavior of your ex. That is such a common trend I'm seeing on social media. And realistically, that can be helpful because it can help you understand why they behaved that way. Because I remember when I first broke up with my ex 12 plus years ago, back then, the word narcissist was just not heard of. You didn't hear that word thrown out there. And I remember back then, I had to Google his behavior. I'm like, I don't understand this. This is so out of character. 1 minute, he's all interested in wanting to make it work again. Next minute, I'm the worst enemy. I'm getting blamed for everything. I don't understand what's going on. So I literally Googled the behaviors. And that's when I learned about narcissism. Now, mind you, I had studied a bit prior to all this. But as I said, narcissism wasn't a thing. It wasn't really spoken about back then. And that's how I discovered it. And for me, it did help with understanding, okay, that makes sense. I get it now. I get why he was doing this. I get why he behaves this way. I get why he reacts this way. It doesn't make it okay, but it makes it more understandable. And what I'm seeing on social media is it's like it's becoming the norm to just focus on putting a label on your ex, and that's what you need to look at. That's what you need to move on. And as I just said, yes, it can help with understanding their behaviors. It can help with giving you a bit of clarity as to why this is happening, but it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't change anything. I had someone commenting on one of my posts over the weekend to the point where it was just endless commenting, where they were trying to tell me I was a bot because I wasn't understanding their point of view. Mind you, I did understand their point of view, but I didn't agree with it. And actually, no, let me take that back. It wasn't that I didn't agree with it. It's just that, honestly, what they were trying to say about healing and moving on is not how it works. Because this person kept saying, but people need to understand if their partner is avoidant. They need to know this. They need to know why their ex is doing these things. People need to be made aware of this. And I just sat there and I thought, why are you trying to prove me wrong at something that I know exactly about? This is what I coach in. This is what I'm educated in. This is what I've studied in. And this guy kept trying to tell me I was wrong. So I just like, okay, I wish you the best. Good luck with everything going forward. This person did not want to see my point of view. And he kept referring back to social media. And that's when I'm like, this has gotten out of control, where people are seeing all these posts on social media from people that are not even working in this industry. Like, that's what it is. That makes sense. This is what it must be. But we need to stop taking what people are saying as Bible. We need to stop thinking, okay, because this random person, it may have worked for them, or they may have figured out that their ex is avoidant, or they may have figured out that their ex is a narcissist and they're a high conflict co-parent. And that's great. As I said, it helps you understand the situation. But that is not what healing is about. Healing is not about looking at your ex. Healing is not about putting your energy onto your ex and looking at why they do things. Healing and everything about healing and everything I do as a coach in my line of work, it's about you. You. We cannot change your ex. And this is something you probably are sick of hearing me say, because I say it nearly every episode. You cannot change your ex. You cannot change what they have done. You cannot change the way they behave. You cannot change what they say or what they do. The only thing you have control over is you and how you react to the situation, how you choose to handle it going forward. That is what you can control. So yes, putting a title on your ex and having a bit of understanding around their behavior and around why they're doing certain things can definitely help. But it doesn't change how you co-parent with this person. It doesn't change how you broke up with this person. It doesn't change how you interact with this person. It just puts a label on them. Okay, they're a narcissist. I get it now. I get why they're such an asshole. It doesn't change anything. And the whole point in this episode today is to help you be more understanding and more aware of what healing actually looks like. And everything about healing is about you. So if you're wanting to know why your ex is behaving certain ways and why they're doing things, sure, look into it, do some research. Because I'm all for extra self-development and learning and understanding certain behaviors. I'm always looking into these things. There's always things you can learn, always. However, if you're wanting to heal, if you're wanting to move on, if you're wanting to let go, that process does not involve your ex. And this is something that really needs to be made more aware. People just think, okay, well, they've hurt me. They've done this, so they need to change. Or they've hurt me, they broke my heart, so I need to understand why they did this. They did that, so I need to put a label on them. Your healing has nothing to do with your ex. Your healing is all about you. And another thing that is so overused on social media, and that is when people have come to a place of actually accepting the breakup. It's like, yep, I've accepted it. I don't want them back. I'm done. I'm good. And these are two very different things. Accepting the breakup is the first part of healing. So if you're at that place where you've said to yourself, yes, I'm good. I don't want this person back. I'm done with them. I'm finished. Time to move on. That is not healing. That is the first step of healing. That is the first process. Accepting the breakup, accepting what has happened. And I see this all too often in my line of work, and people referring to social media and people referring to the fact that I'm healed. And just in reference to that term, I'm healed. Nobody's ever fully healed. Nobody is ever fully healed. And quite often when I see people say these comments, I'm healed, but I've given up on dating. I'm healed, but, and then they put some other statement with it. It's like, you can't say you're healed, but you're giving up on dating. Because if you are healed, then you're not giving up. A healed person, or a person has healed from their breakup, is not someone that just runs away and shuts up shop. I'm done. I'm giving up. Someone that's let go of their breakup is someone that says, I'm happily single, I'm just enjoying my time single, and I know that the right person is out there. Giving up completely on something is scared to try again, is scared to put yourself out there, it's scared to open up, it's scared to trust again. That's giving up, and that's not being healed. And yes, there is one thing to say, I don't want to date again, I'm quite content on my own. And that's become a common trend these days, and that's totally fine. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there's a big difference between saying, I'm enjoying my life being single, and I know one day when I'm ready, I will find my person. But to use it in the way, I'm single, but I don't want to date again. I've got no interest in dating. I've given up because you're scared to go back out there, then that's not being healed. And going back to what I just said, where I was saying that accepting the breakup is where a lot of people get stuck. And a lot of people think that because they've accepted what's happened, that they're healed. And as I just touched on a second ago, healing is not something that you just reach by saying, yes, I've accepted the breakup. Because the whole purpose of healing, the whole purpose of moving on and letting go from a breakup is working through what happened in that breakup. Is working through all the hurt and the wounds that were brought up from that breakup. That is what healing looks like. It's not about looking at your ex and what they've done to you. It's not about putting a title on your ex because of their behaviors. And it's not about getting to a place where you say, I don't like them and I do not want this person ever back in my life. I'm done. That's accepting the breakup. And that is very different. Because to actually heal, you need to emotionally detach yourself and get into a place where you accept the breakup. And I see this a lot in my line of work where people say, yep, I'm healed, I'm good. But then as soon as they're in contact with their ex, they're getting triggered. As soon as they see a message from their ex, it's just eggshells, it's anxiety, it's stress. That is not being emotionally detached. Now, there's no shame on anyone who is in that situation. However, please don't confuse the two. Because when you've still got emotions there towards your ex, and just people think when there's no positive emotions, like their love's gone, the interest in wanting to make it work again, I think because there's no positive emotions there, then that's it. They're done. They're over their ex. That's let go of wanting the relationship to work. That's accepted that the breakup is done. That is not healing. That is not emotionally detaching. These are very different things. And to completely let go and move on is about working through those emotions. That's the whole part of healing. That's the whole point in healing. Working through that. It's not about saying, yes, I'm good. I've accepted the breakup. I'm good to go again. Now, I'm not saying to anyone that you should completely stop dating and completely stop everything until you fully heal. Because as I just touched on, you're never fully healed. It's a lifelong journey. You're constantly learning things about yourself. You're constantly learning how to handle situations different. You're constantly learning to be a better person. That's the whole point in healing. Healing is not a destination. Healing is a journey. And we all, as humans, we are all constantly growing. We are all constantly learning. However, when it comes to healing from your breakup, when it comes to moving on and letting go from your breakup, it's when you're able to get to a place where you can be in contact with your ex, because when you're single parenting, you will be in contact with this person. And it's when you can be in contact with them and not have any reaction. When they can message you and you're just like, okay, yep, that's fine. There's no anxiety, there's no stress, there's nothing. There's no extra pressure. It's just like a random friend who you haven't spoken to in a while that just messages you. And you're like, yep, sure, no worries. That is when you emotionally detach. And that is the part that so many people overlook. Accepting your breakup is not healing. Accepting your breakup is not letting go or moving on. It's accepted, okay, this is not the person for me. I wasn't happy about the breakup. I don't agree with it. But now I've seen who my ex is. I've seen the way they behave and I don't want them back. That is accepting that the relationship is over. That is not healing. That is not moving on. That is not letting go. And as I was also just touching on, I would never tell anyone to just stop everything and you've got to just immerse yourself in the whole healing world completely before you get back out into dating or get back out into the world again. No. However, I do strongly advise, if you do want to go back into the dating world, that if you're not completely emotionally detached from your ex, that you're in the process of making that happen. You're in the process of doing the work to move on. You're in the process of healing yourself, and you're healing those wounds to let go of your ex. Because you don't want to go into a new relationship and start going into the dating world and be in this situation where you feel like you just can't trust anyone. You can't trust them. You just don't know how to open up again. You're all guarded. You're not going to meet the right person if you're going into the dating world like this. Now, it's one thing to go in and meet someone who is supportive of where you're at and is happy to support you along the way. That's great. That's what you want. That's exactly what you want in a partner. However, you don't want to go into the dating world and expect them to, how do I say this? Be your therapist in a way. You don't want them to be the person that's there to fix your wounds. They don't know how to do that. That's not their job to do that. They can be there to support you. But if you're going through a moment with your new partner and you're back in the dating world and all of a sudden you get triggered and they're like, whoa, what's just happened? Why are they reacting like this? It's a good chance you're reacting a certain way because of something that's happened in your past relationship that's been triggered in this relationship here. These wounds have been brought back again. Maybe you're not feeling validated. Maybe you're not feeling seen. You're not feeling heard. You're not feeling appreciated. You're not feeling respected. All these wounds will come back out again if you've been through a certain situation with your ex that you haven't looked at. You haven't looked at how to handle that situation better. You haven't looked at how to heal from that. You just think, yep, I've accepted the breakup. I'm done. I'm good to go again. And this is where people constantly fall back into those dating cycles. And they're like, why do I keep meeting the same type of people? Why do I keep breaking up with people in the exact same way? Why does the same thing keep happening over and over again? Because a different person is not going to change your outcome if you're going into the relationship with the same mindset, with the same outlook, with the same energy. You're doing the exact same things, just with a different person. You're not going to get a different outcome just because the person's different. If you're handling the situation the exact same way when you get triggered or when you get put off, when something happens, they may be doing something that really bothers you, and it might be something that your ex did, and all of a sudden you're triggered and you're getting worked up and you're feeling like you need to maybe check their phone, and then you're asking social media for all this advice. When really all you need to do is just step back and go, okay, why is this really triggering me? Why is this bothering me so much? And the thing is, when you get to a place where you have healed from your breakup, that's when you can go into relationships with a healthier mindset, with a mindset knowing that if this doesn't work, that's okay. My person is out there. You go into a relationship prepared to communicate about things that haven't worked in the past. You're not just hoping for the best. And this is the important thing. When you do work through that healing process, when you do let go of all these wounds and work through those wounds, you are more clear on what you're looking for. You're more clear on what you're wanting in a partner. So you don't settle. You don't lower your standards. You know how to have your boundaries. You don't ignore the red flags. But see, when you haven't worked through any of that, when you've still got those wounds there, that's when your confidence and the belief in yourself is not there as either. So when it comes to making a decision to meeting someone new in the dating world, that's when you start thinking, well, maybe they are the one. You start doubting your own choices. You don't believe that, okay, if I say no to this, there must be someone better out there. You convince yourself that this has got to be the one because they're being nice to me, so I've got to make it work. And that goes back to that previous episode, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where I did an episode on they're nice, so they must be the one, when you're ignoring all the red flags. And that's what's so easy to do when you're going into the dating world, when you're still got all those wounds from the past. And just remember, I'm not telling everyone to go out and be completely healed and be like, but I am saying it's important to be on the process of working through that. It's important to be in the process of looking at those wounds and looking at what keeps coming up every time you're meeting someone new. It's important to look at what keeps coming up every time you're in communication or you interact with your ex and you're getting triggered. and you're getting the shits and you're constantly fighting and you're constantly getting anxious and walking on eggshells. Like, what is coming up here? Why is this happening? I'll tell you why it's happening, because you haven't healed those wounds. You've accepted the breakup. But if you're constantly fighting with your ex, there's constantly tension, there's constantly stress, there's constantly issues there when it comes to co-parenting, or you're completely avoiding them. You think, okay, if I don't have to deal with my ex at all, then everything's fine. I'll be good. That doesn't fix anything. If anything, that just puts a Band-Aid on it. That's not having to deal with your ex does not mean you're healed. It does not mean that the situation is completely resolved. It means that that person is hidden away, and at some point they're going to come back out again and you're going to have to deal with them. And all those issues will come back again because nothing has been resolved. And that's when you go back into the dating world thinking you're good, thinking everything's fine because you don't have any issues with your ex, but you don't have any issues with your ex because you're not having to deal with them. But that hurt and everything that's happened, that's been brought up from your breakup, that's all still there. But you just think because you're not seeing your ex that it's not. It's all gone. You're all good. You're fine. But then you're back in the dating world and you're going through this same cycle. You're possibly self-sabotaging. You don't even realize it, but you're going into the dating world and all of a sudden something goes good and then you just sabotage it. You're like, no, they're just going to leave me, so I'm going to do it first. And it happens a lot. You don't realize you're doing it. But you think when it gets too good to be true, or when you've your previous relationship with your kid's other parent, maybe they cheated on you, maybe they just left you and they blindsided you, or something happened like that. So now you're fearful of it happening again. So you just jump ship before they can do it to you. And that happens more often than you think, because that you don't want to get hurt again. You don't want to get broken up with. You don't want your heart broken again. So you do it first before they can do it to you. And you're constantly going into the dating world with this mentality, I don't want to be heartbroken again. I don't want to be heartbroken again. I don't want to be heartbroken again. So you get out first. At the first sign of something negative happening or something that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, that's when you jump ship. But that is not resolving anything. That is not the sign of somebody that is healed from their breakup. That is someone that is running away from the wounds from their breakup. Because when you get to a point in a relationship where things start to get uncomfortable, that's a good sign. Because relationships are never all butterflies and rainbows. And if anyone tells you their relationship is, then they're lying. Everyone has issues in relationships. The important part is knowing how to handle those issues, knowing how to communicate those issues, not getting to a point it's like, oh, I don't like this, I'm out, I'm running, not dealing with this. That is a sign of someone that's wounded that just keeps running and keeps running and keeps running. And eventually they may meet someone that's going to tolerate that behavior. And they'll tolerate them just coming and going every time when life gets hard. And we all know someone like that. I'm sure we've all met someone like that when it all just, shit gets too hard, they just run off and disappear. And they might come back later or they might not. Then if they've met a partner that allows them to come back every time they do that, then they're just enabling that behavior. And some people are okay with that. For me, I personally would not be. You need a partner that you can communicate with. Because if you're in a relationship with someone who runs at the first sign of something getting too hard, then I can tell you the communication level would be very minimal. And that is the most important thing in a relationship to make it work, having that healthy level of communication. So if you're in a relationship with someone who does just keep running, then you're probably very good at just pretending like everything's fine, just hoping for the best. They're a good person, but they'll just keep running, so I'll just let them come back because they're hurt, because that's how they deal with things. They're hurt because they haven't dealt with anything. They're hurt because they just keep pushing everything down. They keep pushing it down. And do you know what? There's only so long you can keep pushing it down before it just comes back out and bursts out again. That is why it is so important to deal with it. It's not about saying, yes, I'm okay. It's not about saying, I don't want my ex back. I'm done. I'm good. That's accepting the breakup. You've accepted it. That's the first part. It's not about putting a label on your ex and understanding why they behave a certain way. It's not about blaming their ex and looking at what they've done. You don't want to focus on your ex anymore. Going forward is about focusing on you. It's about looking at how you show up. It's about looking at what has hurt you. It's about looking at what triggers you, what bothers you. That's what healing is about. So what I want everyone to understand today from this episode is healing is not about all these buzzwords that you see on social media. I mean, some are great, some not so much. Some do give an incorrect message. And I have had a lot of clients come to me referring back to social media. And I'm like, are these like credible pages that you're listening to? Or are these just some random person that's just gone through a breakup and sharing their experience and thinking that they're qualified in this field? I suppose they're the pros and cons of social media. You can get some great information from there that can be really valuable, but then you can get some toxic stuff that can really mislead you and give you the wrong information as to what it looks like to let go and to move on. So what I really want you all to take away from this episode is anything about healing, anything about moving on and letting go is about you. It's about looking inwards. It's about self-reflecting. It's about looking at what can you do differently going forward. It's about how can I heal this? How can I work through this? How can I do this differently next time? That is what healing is. So if you're someone that still gets triggered by your ex, you're still getting bothered by them, you still don't like it when they message you and you have to be in contact with them, but then you're telling yourself, yeah, I'm good, I'm fine, I've let go, I don't want them anymore, then I want you to ask yourself, are you really healed? Have you really let go? Because if you're getting bothered and triggered by your ex and they're constantly making you feel a certain way, then you're still emotionally detached. Letting go of the breakup is about letting go of any emotional attachment you have to your ex. That's how you let them go. That's how you move on. And this is exactly what I do in my coaching sessions. Every coaching session that I go through with my clients is all about them. Where are you at? What are you going through right now? What's come up for you this week? Let's unpack this. It is about you working through these situations, talking about any triggers, any situation you've been through. Let's look at it. Okay, how can we deal with this differently going forward? Why has this bothered you so much? It's looking at these wounds and looking at a way to work through them and looking at why it is hurting so much, why you're reacting so much, why it bothers you so much. And let's reframe this so you can get to a place where you've accepted where it's at or where you're at. And you're no longer holding attachment onto the past. That's the purpose of healing. Not about accepting the breakup, working through everything that the breakup has brought up in you. So please don't forget that. So if you're going through these repetitive dating patterns, or if you're having problems with your ex and you're convincing yourself you're fine, you're good, you're okay, but you've still got all these emotions, you're still reacting to your ex, you've got all these same patterns happening in your life, then I can tell you, there's still attachment there. There's still emotions there. You're still emotionally invested. And a lot of people don't like to hear that. I'm not emotionally invested. I'm not. If you're getting angry, if you're getting worked up, if you're getting triggered, you're still emotionally invested. Doesn't mean because they're negative emotions or that you don't have any love or you don't want them back in a romantic way. That's not the only form of emotional investment. You're still invested in it when you've still got a reaction there. You're still getting worked up. That's what you need to let go of. That emotional attachment. That is when you've let go. And that is when you've moved on. And it's a great feeling to be able to do that, to co-parent with someone who you used to have a very, very toxic relationship with. And now you can co-parent and talk to this person without any issues, without getting triggered, without getting worked up, without getting stressed, without knowing they are maybe a narcissist or toxic or high conflict. And you know how to handle those situations because you're not emotionally invested anymore. You don't get fazed by these things anymore. That is such a beautiful feeling. And it is possible. And this is where you can get when you emotionally detach. Okay, so if anyone is out there that wants to completely emotionally detach from your ex, from your past, and you want to work on these wounds, and the important thing to remember is, and I see this come up a lot, people just think that if they go through therapy or coaching or counseling or whatever it is, that they think, well, why should I have to do it when it's because of what they did to me? They should get therapy. They should get coaching. They should get counseling. The thing is, we're not focusing on them. We're not working on them. If you've got wounds there, if they've triggered you, if you've got emotions there that are from your breakup, then that's what needs to be worked on. We can't work on that by looking at your ex. What's happened in the past is done, whether it's right or wrong. Good chance it's wrong. That's why you're broken up. However, we can't change that. We can't work on them. That's a them issue. If they want to heal, if they want to work on their things, if they want to become a better person, ideally that's what would be great, wouldn't it? But you can't make that happen. That's up to them. But if you want to heal, if you want to let go, if you want to move on, then take that focus off your ex and put it onto you. All right. So if any of you are interested in starting that process, let me know. I'm here. Let's work through that. Let's get you emotionally detached for good. Feel free to come over and message me on any of my socials, and I will send you a link there for a free chat, or otherwise jump into the show notes. The details are there to grab yourself a free 30-minute chat, and let's get you started. Let's see, and let me talk to you and show you how it is possible. Let's unpack what you're going through, and I can tell you straight away from that first 30-minute chat, okay, I can see exactly where you're at. I can tell you right now, this is what's happened, and this is why you're constantly getting stuck. It's amazing what you pick up in 30 minutes just by hearing someone's story. It's like, okay, I get it now. I see what the issue is. And that's what needs to be worked on. So you let that go for good. You let it all go for good. And the point of coaching is, you can read your books, you can listen to these podcasts, you can watch social media reels. However, just the whole point in coaching is you've got that constant weekly hit, that constant message, that constant reminder, that constant support where you can unpack things with me together so you're not falling off the track. You're not taking 10 steps forward and taking 20 steps back again. And it's easy to do that when you're doing it on your own because you just read something or you might see reels like, yep, okay, I get it. I'll do that. And then all of a sudden your ex messages and turns into a downward spiral, that constant back and forth messaging. It's like, oh shit, I just saw this reel. I knew that's what I had to do. And that's the whole point in coaching. It's that constant support there that can keep you on the right path so you don't go 20 steps backwards. It's the whole point in helping you move forward. So please, as I said, reach out if you do need that support. And if you are enjoying the podcast or whether you did enjoy this episode, then let me know. Send me some messages. I'd love to hear your feedback. Give me a review. Share it with your single parent friends. And come over and say hi. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever you are. Come over and say hi. I will respond. I do promise I will. And sometimes if you're lucky enough, you'll get responded with a voice message. Because I hate typing. I'm a bit lazy like that. But I do also like sending voice messages. It makes you realize that you're not just messaging a bot. You're messaging a real person, and it's a real person that responds, not an automated message. So if you do want a message, I will always respond. So thank you, everyone. And I really hope you got something valuable from this episode. And feel free to let me know if you did. And until next week, I'll be in your ears then. Thank you for joining us on the Life After Plus One podcast. If you loved what you heard today and looking for some further support, then jump onto our website, lifeafterplusone.com. Plus, don't forget to check out our Instagram page for further resources and inspo. You can find all the links in the show notes. And remember, you're not alone on this path. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep exploring your amazing life after plus one.